Hello. So I wanted to come up with an idea for a cheap foundry, and I didn't want to spend a lot of money. And so I'm going to show you what I came up with. It's very cheap. All right, so long story short, got a Cinderblock. And as you can see here, I got some ceramic blanket. I don't want to touch it with my bare hands. I usually wear gloves if I go anywhere near this stuff. So you don't want to touch that with bare hands. It's like stone fibers. It's just a ceramic fibers that they put into this 1-inch thick blanket. And that's perfect for just keeping that heat in there. I actually tried doing this just on a crucible with just my blowtorch blowing into it. And initially I started with brass. That's what I was experimenting with, was brass. And the problem is brass doesn't get into that temperature where not only is it molten, but it's very flowy. I don't know how to describe it, but when you try casting a ring and you don't get the metal quite hot enough, it doesn't flow into the cast properly. So if you have that problem where you're pouring your metal and it's just not sinking into it's not filling in your mold all the way, your metal's probably not quite hot enough. So anyway, I made this little pocket where this only goes back about halfway through the cinder block, but it really traps in the heat. And so I'm able to get much higher temperatures. And I'm just using propane. I mean, I just have a normal barbecue propane tank with an adapter and a torch on the end. And by adding this fiber, I'm able to get all the way to molten and then some. And I actually did an experiment to see how hot I could get. And I got my brass really hot. It was so hot I added this door right here so that I could close a little bit because the radiant heat was burning my legs. And that's even with pants and overalls and yeah, just being completely covered. I have some nice gloves that I wear that are supposed to withstand 1,000 degrees, and even those were just uncomfortable. I had to like take turns with handles blowing the blowtorch and like hold my hands off to the side to let them just cool down just because it gets so incredibly hot. But anyway, that was so hot that I poured it into a jar of water, and it was in the jar molten for a few seconds, and then it blew out the bottom of the glass jar. So that's something you want to think about if you're getting metals really hot. So this is extremely effective, and these things are like $1.50 at Home Depot. So $1.50 for this. My ceramic blanket was, I don't know, if you can get a smaller package. I got a big giant one, and I think the ceramic blanket was like 10 bucks, but I only used like 1/5 of the package to make this little pocket right here that I'm using as a foundry to heat up my stuff. So this is an excellent option if you don't want to spend more than $10 or $20 to make a nice foundry to get extremely high temperatures for metals. This is very effective. So, and then the last thing I wanted to mention is I drilled a hole through the top. And now I'm realizing the hole should probably be a little bit bigger, but that's the size of my drill bit. It's pretty effective, but once it gets really hot in here, sometimes I'll have some backflow of expanding gases that'll blow out my torch if I'm holding it at the wrong angle. As long as I keep it angled kind of low, when it gets hotter, I'm good. But if I'm not paying attention to what angle I'm shooting the heat from the blowtorch into that chamber, it will, the backflow of air will actually put the backflow of air will put the torch out. So I think I'm gonna expand this hole a little bit better. But anyway, that hole is probably fine. You just need to let those hot rising gases come out of here. And when I get it really hot in here, this entire chamber will be glowing, and you can actually see like just a rising column of incandescent gas just shooting out of there. It's actually pretty impressive when it gets going. So anyway, like I said, dirt cheap. You could probably get away with not even drilling that hole out. Just realize that there's going to be a lot of expanding gases shooting out of that chamber. So you also want to make sure that you have a mask on, because like I said, if you inhale any of this, you're going to have permanent damage to your lungs. You want to make sure that you have some type of filtration, some type of mask, N95 mask to filter out those fibers when they eventually, and they'll come off and you'll inhale them if you're not careful.